This is The Liz Harrison Show.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Liz Harrison. Thank you for listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio. If you're catching us on K98talk.com, thank you for listening there. It is Wednesday, January 28th. Almost done with the month. Oh joy, oh joy. So, before we know it, we're going to be heading into Valentine's Day. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the holiday. It's filed under one of two types of holidays I don't like. One, the government holidays that are an excuse for government workers and bankers to not do business. Two, greeting card holidays. Yeah. Really don't like Valentine's Day, but hey, I can't say that I would go as far as some people might when it comes to Valentine greetings. If you had somebody who you really, really didn't like, apparently San Francisco Zoo can help you out there. Yeah, you can adopt an animal there, like a hissing cockroach or a giant scorpion. And you could send a certificate to your ex. Yeah. I'm right on that. Okay, maybe not. Fox News reports about it, and from the zoo itself. Quote, "These invertebrates are aggressive, active, and alarmingly nocturnal. Much like your low-life ex, they are usually found in and around low-elevation valleys where they dig elaborate burrows or caves. Also, just like you-know-who, when a suitable victim wanders by, the scorpion grabs the doomed creature with its pincers and stings the prey. Charming!" For $50 you can go and adopt a scorpion. And you could get a certificate and a stuffed stinger sent to the person who you want to send it to. Starting at $25, you can send the cockroach, as they put it, quote, "to the detritus of your love life." And I gotta love the sales pitch here. Quote, "With a little luck, this generous donation will release your bad love life karma so that you never have to encounter a cockroach again." Wow. I wonder how popular this is. I'm going to have to, go and find out after Valentine's Day. I'll have to have somebody give me a reminder. Perhaps the regular local listener, he knows who he is. He remembers everything. So knowing him, shortly after Valentine's, he'll say, "Oh, by the way, did you contact the San Francisco Zoo to find out how their adopt a scorpion and cockroach thing went?" Yeah. Anyway, truth in advertising from the Facebook, if you were looking there. Sex, sex, sex. Anybody who pays attention to Lembas and Coffee on Facebook knows that perhaps today I was in a little argument about this. I feel bad because I did not look at the story completely and didn't watch the video. I skimmed it before entering into the debate. Bad person. And you know what? I have to agree with the people. I mean, initially I was like, dress codes, blah, blah, blah. And I went and I said, and here's the best part. I said, my daughter has to dress like Audrey Hepburn. If Audrey Hepburn wouldn't wear it, she shouldn't be going out the door with it on. And lo and behold, this girl idolizes Audrey, and arguably the dress actually fit the dress code. I mean, I didn't see anything in the news report about the school administrators or any members of the staff standing there with a ruler. And when I looked at the dress, they said on their dress code, and this is a story on the Blaze, and I'll quote, "Formals, backless dresses, and or tops may not extend beyond the bottom of the shoulder blades. Girls' dresses and tops must have a 2-inch minimum strap on each shoulder. Shawls, boleros, and other shrugs are acceptable if worn over the dress at all times, cleavage covered." Okay, her cleavage is covered. Now, they did not specify in this whether or not they said that if you had the 2-inch minimum strap, which she did, unless you were getting out a ruler, maybe it might have been a little bit off, but point is, we're not talking about spaghetti straps here. We're talking about like a relatively wide tank top. So, yeah, they didn't say anything about that. I'm guessing, looking at that myself as a mom, I would be thinking, okay, my daughter wants a dress and it doesn't have straps. It's a strapless dress. I would take the shawl, bolero, or shrug as something that I could buy for my daughter to wear with that dress so that it would fit the dress code. I wouldn't be concerned about buying it if this dress had the 2-inch strap, which hers did. So, and basically they were talking about skirt length and all of that. And the girl showed pictures in the video of other girls that had dresses that were shorter than they said were permitted and were sleeveless. But these people were not forced to cover up as she was. She had to go through the dance wearing a winter coat. And I'm thinking, what? No. She didn't break the dress code as they've written it. She was singled out and told to do something that nobody else was. They did not evenly apply the dress code. So yes, the school's at fault. Definitely. Now, granted, like the argument on the Facebook said, who cares if it's, happening in a school district where you don't go, your children are not there, whatever. Yeah, but there's one issue. If you're going to make the rules, you apply them evenly. And I don't care what school district it is. If it was some smart aleck little girl who's sitting there trying to flaunt a dress that absolutely did not fit the dress code, then I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. The school's in the right. No, the school is not in the right. They made the rules. They didn't enforce them the way they were supposed to. And as a general situation, it's different. Yeah, it's their local school district, their local problem. But school districts need to realize that they need to actually follow the rules and enforce the rules that they set with an even hand. And arguably that becomes a bigger issue in general, because think about it. One school gets away with doing this. Who's to say another one won't? And we've all seen this. I mean, it's just the same as when you have the honor student who they went and expelled him. He accidentally left a gun in his vehicle. He tried to call his mother to come and take the gun away, and he got in trouble for having it. I was like, wait a minute here. No. And basically, as far as this girl goes, no. 15-year-old girl, she should go back, and the parents should go back and basically say, no, 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 no. You need to apply the rules accordingly. And it's not about sexualization here, folks. It really isn't. They said it was on the news, but no, no. Because it's just somebody in the school going overboard and pushing it farther than the rules actually said. She followed the rules in good faith. There were other girls who didn't, and they didn't get in trouble. Bad message. Bad message. And as for my daughter, the one who I've always told, if Audrey Hepburn wouldn't wear it, she likes the dress. So, there you go. And honestly, I looked at it and I thought, yeah, Audrey would wear it. And in the Facebook, there was a picture of a dress almost exactly the same as it on Audrey Hepburn. Somebody posted it. So, horrible, horrible thing. Of course, this was out in Utah. So I may as well stick with the whole Utah meme. It's amusing. It's amusing. Really amusing. HuffPost was getting into a whole big deal. AP report came out. Mormon church leaders are making a national appeal for a balanced approach over gay rights and religious freedom. What does that mean? Well, basically they're telling people of the Mormon church that they should be more open and compassionate towards gays. Okay. Oh, excuse me. They're condemning discrimination against gays. I don't know how far they're taking that because it has to do with, protecting the rights of the religious to follow their faith. Basically, I think it's lip service to a certain extent. Yes, it might lead to some meaningful conversation. Do I think that the Mormon Church really should be in this position in the first place? No. The whole reason why we have this issue in the first place is because of the government and the gay rights activists. Yeah, you heard me. I'm not blaming the churches. I done. Not even bothering it. Because basically, at this point, in the United States, the extent of issues, as far as gays are concerned, have to do with legalities that are the purview of the government, and it has to do with some limited exercise of business. Now, when I was growing up, I remember going to stores on a regular basis that would have a sign in the window that would say, "We reserve the right to refuse service to any person for any reason." Of course, that was in the 70s. The primary reason why they would do this, at least where I lived, because our community was not very diverse. It is primarily white. The reason why they would do this was not racist or particularly discriminatory in any sense of the word. No, the local businesses were basically saying to certain individuals, very special people that had a tendency of getting into run-ins with Johnny Law, that we're not even going to wait on you. We're going to kick your rear out. Basically, if you were a bad actor in that business previously, they weren't going to let you in. And that went fine until people started complaining about it. Now, in the case of religious people refusing to do business with gays, particularly the whole wedding baker and photographer thing. Those people were targeted. There are no two ways about that. The gay activists decided that they wanted to go after these people because they had advertised themselves as Christian. I'm sorry, but please stop insulting everyone's intelligence. Really. When somebody is going to prepare for a wedding, they choose people who have their vision of what they want their wedding to be. Obviously, a Christian baker is not going to have the vision of what the gay couple would want it to be because they don't agree with the concept of gay marriage. So why would you go to them? Other than to raise hell and make headlines. And don't go and say they're the only bakery in town, they're the only photographer in town, because that wasn't the case either. So, put that aside. I'm tired of hearing the argument about it. I'm tired of hearing the whining. I'm tired of it all. And so is just about everyone else. See, once upon a time in this country, people did not parade around putting their sexuality on their sleeve. And I know, gays say, well, we had to live in the shadows. There's a reason why you did. There is a very big reason why you did. When gays had to keep to the shadows was when we had a far greater number of individuals in this country that observed Christian or other faiths, Jewish, what have you, that did not agree with homosexuality. The vast majority of the people were involved in organized religion. We are shifting away from that. There are a lot of people who consider themselves religious, but they are not affiliated with a specific church. There are people who consider themselves spiritual, but they may or may not believe in a God. There is a whole vast level of diversity out there that wasn't there when the general intolerance for gays was going on. Okay? Now, there are still churches out there that have issues, do not agree with homosexuality. I have only one thing to say to the people who are upset about this. Please, pay attention to your history. Once upon a time, we had something called the Protestant Reformation. There was a split in the church, and it became multiple Christian churches, Christian sects. And by the way, there are Christian sects out there that already accept homosexuality. United Church of God comes to mind. The Unitarian Universalist churches that actually do recognize Christ, because they're sort of a hodgepodge and they may or may not. Anyway, the point is that if you totally disagree with the doctrine of a given church, there are solutions to be had, especially since you are claiming that there are a lot of people that agree with you. Well, if that truly is the case, then why aren't you finding your own route? Just wondering. Or why aren't you petitioning the leaders of your church to change? I mean, in the case of the Mormons, their situation of trying to be more compassionate and everything, honestly, I'm just wondering, what are they going to do to John Dillon? Someone who had been featured in Deseret News a while back. He was supposed to be facing a church disciplinary council on January 25th for his alleged apostasy. Why? Well, he's sort of kind of not against homosexuality. Okay? So, what happens to him? I don't know. Maybe they'll be nice to him. I have to go and look up to see if anything was said about that. But he disagreed with portions of their theology and agreed with other portions. Okay. That's fine. I know there are people who sit there and say you can't be a cafeteria, whatever, Catholic, Protestant, Mormon. I'm sorry, there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to religion. The primary reason why we're getting into all of these arguments is because the state has been muddying the water. I argued about this before. I know that we're not going to be able to get the state out of the marriage business, so I'm sitting here thinking, why don't we take them out of the loop when it comes to the churches? You shouldn't have to go get a marriage license from the state to have it used by a minister in a church. No, the churches should have the ability to make a legal document recognizing a marriage without the state's involvement. I mean, maybe if the state really wants money out of them, they can charge them for making each document, a fee for filing it. Like the minister would have to file it with the state so that whenever you go to file your taxes, the state recognizes that you're married. That should be the extent of the involvement there. But maybe the minister should have those forms. Because that would take this whole argument out completely. State sits there and says, we don't discriminate. You can come to the courthouse and we don't care what you are. You can get married by the state. If you want to get married in a church, you got to follow the rules of the given church. The state cannot tell a church to recognize any marriage. That is a choice by them. And rightfully so, because, some ministers may not want to be forced to marry people that aren't members. And the same thing should go for the private businesses, by the way, because, I have this neat little concept in my head. It's not necessarily discrimination. You know what I mean? Because these people have to live there. They have to do businesses on a regular basis. There is that. There are situations where they can't control their neighbors. It's not a perfect world. But just because you're a private business holder or business owner doesn't mean that you should be told to do something against your conscience. And as far as they say about taking profit, you shouldn't be able to discriminate when you do that. I don't know. I really don't. I understand it when it comes to race. But beyond that, I'm not so sure. I really am not. Because you're talking about life choices. And I know that gets everybody angry. They sit there and say, oh, but it's not a choice to be gay. No, maybe it isn't. But it is a choice whether or not you get married. And as long as, you have a state option, or there are churches that are willing, even if all of them aren't, What's the problem? Keep on forgetting about this general concept. My rights end where another person's begin. And if nothing else, the First Amendment, I mean, I know the argument is there for due process and all of that, and equal treatment under the law. Equal treatment under the law is one thing. But I always looked at the First Amendment as slightly different. Actually, the first and second, but we'll stick with the first. Why was it first? Call me silly, but I'm going to make a guess and think that the founders thought, the architects of the Constitution thought, that the rights protected under the First Amendment were more important than anything else, because it was the first thing that came to mind. They did not want to repeat the mistakes of the land they came from, so to speak. They did not want to repeat the mistakes of England. They didn't want the government to recognize any specific religion, and conversely, they didn't want the government interfering in the people's right to observe faith. Now, I don't know about you, but forcing the issue of accepting gays on anyone, if their religious belief is that it is wrong, it is sinful, you're telling them to do something. And by the way, we need to remember something. Marriage is considered a sacrament by a lot of people. It's sacred. Sacred. Do we understand? So you're telling them to participate in a sinful act that is specifically attached to something that they consider sacred. And that's fair. Somehow. Wow. And at the same time, you're going to sit there and say, we don't want any crosses in the public square, but we're going to make sure that we put out prayer rugs for the Muslims. And have the call to prayer on Fridays. Really? You're going to go there? No. No. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Anyway. I'm done being annoyed with the church, religion, etc. for the moment. When we get back, something a little bit more lightheaded, maybe or not lightheaded, but lighthearted. Maybe something about the job market. Ooh, that should be fun. Be right back.
This is Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 28th. The Congressional Budget Office has released its latest estimate on the cost of Obamacare subsidies for poor and middle-class Americans. The figure shows the president's signature health care law is significantly over budget. Obamacare is projected to run a $1.35 trillion deficit It will be expected to cost nearly $2 trillion, but bring in $645 billion in taxes, fees, and penalties over the same period of time. That works out to a cost of $50,000 for each subsidized person, and the forecast means there will likely be higher costs in the future. In a 2009 speech, the president vowed not to sign the law if it added to the deficit, and that the cost would be $30,000 for each uninsured American, covering about 30 million people. But even with the high price tag over the next decade, an estimated 31 million people will be without medical insurance, and costs for each individual will rise by 66%. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints issued a press release Tuesday stating support for the LGBT non-discrimination law in the wake of Utah considering SB 100, an act that would add sexual orientation and gender identity to the state's list of anti-discrimination protections. At the same time, the church reiterated support for laws protecting religious freedom and for not forcing religious institutions to perform same-sex marriages. The church also advocated for special protections for religious organizations, including the ability to refuse to perform same-sex marriages if the ban is overturned nationally. 19 states have passed religious freedom measures to ensure the right to religious practice, including the right to refuse to perform same-sex marriages. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of same-sex marriage in June, it is likely the next battleground will be whether or not churches can be compelled to perform same-sex ceremonies. The National Bureau of Economic Research has compiled job gain data from 2014 and has made a compelling discovery. Of the 3 million jobs created in 2014, 1.8 million of them were a direct result of the reduction in unemployment benefits. Federal unemployment insurance dropped to 24 weeks from 53 weeks at the end of 2013, a move opposed by the Obama administration. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker has formed a political committee to expand his message before making a formal run for the presidency in 2016. Walker received strong support when he spoke at the Iowa Freedom Summit this past Saturday. The committee website, Our American Revival, launched Tuesday. Walker also hired former Republican National Committee political director Rick Wiley to run the effort. Walker's political career has been notable, winning 3 elections in 4 years, including surviving a recall in a state that twice voted for Barack Obama. The committee Walker formed is a 527, named for the tax-exempt code under which it is filed. Unlike his opponents, some of whom have formed political action committees, a 527 would give Walker more control over the funding he receives. Walker joins likely candidates Jeb Bush, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and Mitt Romney in the pool of potential Republican 2016 nominees. And actress Angelina Jolie is reaching out to the people of Iraq and drawing international attention to the victims slaughtered by ISIS. Jolie took a trip to northern Iraq on Sunday as part of a special envoy with the United Nations. Jolie visited refugee camps and said it was not enough, quote, to defend our values at home. We have to defend them here, in the camps, and in the informal settlements across the Middle East, and in the ruined towns of Iraq and Syria. This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 28th.
Hi, this is Jason Dibbler, co-host of Q with a View, heard every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on FTR Radio. Right now, FTR needs your help in making the jump into the 21st century through some long-needed equipment upgrades. This is where you, the great and loyal listeners of Great Conservative Talk Radio, can really lend a hand. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR right now. Your assistance, no matter how small, will help to ensure that FTR can continue to offer some of the best conservative radio on the interwebs. Your donation of $50 gets you up to 60 seconds of airtime on FTR radio 4 times. For $100, your ad will run 10 times, or if you don't want to run an ad, you can have 30 minutes of FTR airtime to talk about anything you want. There are other thank yous for other levels of giving as well, but those are some pretty great offers. We hope you'll consider making a small donation to help keep quality conservative talk radio alive and thriving on the internet. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR today. Thank you.
Hi, this is Steve Hamilton, Station Director at AltCon Radio. And that sultry voice you're listening to is Liz Harrison on The Liz Harrison Show.
Back. Started out with, puritanical crap when it comes to sex in schools. I feel like I'm on a Friday night. Really, I do. Those who don't understand that, the Conservative Feminist Show, where we end up talking about really questionable topics sometimes on Friday nights, 10 o'clock Eastern. Anyway. In Northern California, Lafayette specifically, Acalanes Union High School has a little problem with their sex ed. Probably because they contracted out to Planned Parenthood to get their instructors. Yeah. The school has been forced to do something that every school should, which is preview the course with the parents, with the same person that would be teaching the kids. And the parents would have to, consent for their kids to be in the class. Well, because they were meeting the teachers that were being provided by Planned Parenthood, they discovered some interesting things. One instructor leads a, quote, pleasure workshop. This is out of Fox News, by the way. In which the use of sex toys are demonstrated at a store called Good Vibrations in nearby Berkeley. It was not immediately clear if the instructor told students of the store's offerings. And they also discovered that a second instructor, who's an education manager for Planned Parenthood Northern California, this person boasted that she was a, quote, pleasure activist, whatever that is, online, and also commented on her Twitter feed that she attended the Catalyst Con pornography conference. Well, at least we know she knows a lot about sex. The conference attracts members of the porn industry and has workshops and panels that discusses topics like using explicit instructional media for sex ed. Yeah, I think the parents might be concerned with that. The history of sex toys, and how to effectively share your sex life on the stage and on the page. Now, if California has legal issues like we do here in Pennsylvania, that's a really, really bad thing, because here in Pennsylvania, we haven't exactly fixed the law yet. So you can end up with a sex offender designation here if you are a teenager and you share pornographic images of yourself with others, because it's technically child pornography, and therefore is covered by the sex offender's law. Isn't that great? Anyway, they're saying that, of course, the school district is not responding to requests for comment, but they released statements saying that Planned Parenthood has handled sex education for well over 10 years. One catch. And of course they're getting rid of the two instructors. They're no longer going to teach there, but they didn't say who was going to replace them. I'm afraid to ask. Anyway, nobody's really pleased. Now, their claims that Planned Parenthood is in other schools in the district may or may not be accurate, because apparently the other schools in the district, the other two schools, have chosen not to use Planned Parenthood, and they're not having any problems. Go figure. If you ever wanted an excuse, beyond the obvious, for the government to defund Planned Parenthood, here's one. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't justify it. This is filed under Lacey Green and her sex advice to kids. Those awful videos, if you haven't found them, maybe you would not want to look them up, because you might be angry with me and never want to, listen ever again. So, if you can put up with the liberal trash when it comes to pushing questionable sexual behaviors, and saying that it's all right and fine for teenagers, then yeah, if you have the stomach for it, go ahead, look up Lacey Green. But if not, anybody ever says to look at her, run. Really. I'm sorry, I don't want pornographers teaching my kids. I'm very thankful that I'm not in California. No. This is so wrong on so many levels. Hey, I loved our lesbian health teacher. Loved her. She did it right. You got the awful 60s, 70s, they definitely weren't new, slides showing really horrific photos of nasty welts and crap that people could get from various STDs, really severely magnified so you couldn't see any, you lose the context. You don't realize, oh, that's on, what. Yeah, you lost the context because it was so magnified. But scared the heck out of everyone. I mean, you could tell when those videos and those slides went out in the classroom, because there were no boys and girls holding hands in the hall. There were no boys trying to kiss the girls. It was like automatic force field around everyone. Oh my God, I don't want to get those awful skin sores. Ah, run! Told them the truth. Didn't lie to them. Showed them what could happen. Showed them what diseases they could get. And told them, yeah, condoms work, but best way to avoid it is to not do it. Yeah, abstinence. And I know a lot of people go and say, oh, but the kids want to go and learn their sexuality. No. I'm sorry. We're sexualizing things way too soon. Really. I mean, please stop. No, I don't want to see babies dressed up like Britney Spears. But apparently the retailers think that's a good idea. I mean, really, if you don't have small children, next time you're in a Target, especially because they're one of the worst offenders, take a really good look at the clothing that they offer, especially for little girls. And I mean really little. Some of it is cute, but a lot of it is like, really? Did you have to go and make a little mini skirt for a baby? And like I said on Friday night, low-ride jeans for baby, toddler, whatever. Yeah, no, moms don't like that. They prefer it that the waistband practically goes up to the chest. Because, until they're trained, that's just a nightmare. And it looks like crap. Diaper shows up over the top of the clothing. No, doesn't work. Anyway. We don't want sexy babies. We don't want sexy toddlers. We don't want sexy little girls. don't want it. The people that do, get your heads examined, really. You're only a kid for a very short period of time in your life. And teenagers are not. No matter how much you think times have changed, how sophisticated they've gotten. I'm sorry, the iPad does not make a child more emotionally aware. Doesn't happen. It does not cause increased emotional development. Does not put them on a fast track. Doesn't happen. They can be bombarded by massive amounts of sexual content. And yeah, that's a problem. We really do need to, as consumers, start telling these manufacturers, these advertisers, through our pocketbooks, whenever possible, that this doesn't work. That's the real problem, folks, right there. And Planned Parenthood and the rest of them are just riding on it. It's just ridiculous. This is why I love the idea of school uniforms, because then you don't have this. Oh, ridiculous people. No, they don't need to know that much about sexual activity. No, they do not need to be encouraged to go out and explore their sexual identities. They don't know what they are yet. The best you should be doing is just sitting there and saying, oh, okay, that's fine. Just a non-committal, anything, neutral. That's it. Don't crucify them for having odd thoughts, but at the same time, don't encourage them either. I know there are gay activists out there screaming bloody murder, saying, I'm trying to put an end to gays. No. But I do wonder sometimes, with this whole attitude of trying to normalize the behavior, I'm wondering how many people, because, there are people who keep on coming out and saying, well, I thought I was gay, but I'm not now. And I know the churches latch on to them and they say, oh, they were reformed, they saved themselves, they turned back to God, whatever. No, I don't think it is that. Necessarily. Maybe in some cases, sure, but a lot of the time I think it's just a matter of people working through what they think they are. And when you have people sitting there saying, oh yeah, it's cool to be gay, well, what do you think they're going to do? I wonder what it would be if everybody was just neutral when it came to dealing with it whenever somebody says something like that. And they claim that they're trying to be, the ones that try to let their little boys dress in dresses and ask them, well, what are you today? Are you a boy or a girl? No. And we're talking about really young children there. No, that's not right either. When they're older and they're starting to figure out, oh, do I like boys or do I like girls, if there is even a question, leave them be. They'll figure it out. Anyway, I only have a little bit of time left. Glassdoor decided to put out a list of the best jobs. And it's for 25 best jobs in America. Number 1 is physician assistant. Number 2, software engineer. Number 3, business development manager. Number 4, human resources manager. Number 5, finance manager. You're getting the idea here, folks. Manager. But, yeah. No. Broadcaster is not in there. No. Journalist is not in there. This is based on salary, number of job openings, and career opportunities. Physical therapist is in there at 19. Nurse practitioner at 25 or 24. Mobile developer, the cute little apps that y'all get, that's in at 23. So if you're looking to change careers or whatever, you want to go look at Glassdoor. But the weird thing is here, I'm seeing a lot of tech, I'm seeing a lot of management, I'm seeing a lot of sales, business. But that's about it. Only 3 are in medical. Remember years ago they were saying, oh, medical's the place to be because of all the baby boomers. They're going to need that. Anyway, if you really want to go and look for it, it's at www.glassdoor.com/blog/jobs-america. So, and this is an inaugural report highlighting the best jobs. And if you're not looking at Glassdoor, that's a good place to be. Especially if you're in a position like, you end up changing employers on a regular basis. Anyway, a little while ago, Larry O'Connor on the 21st, over on the Washington Free Beacon's editor's blog, said, why does Hollywood ignore the American Sniper audience? And it's basically a question of, why are they ignoring Middle America? It's a good question. It really is. And it's filed under Hollywood Can't Be Taught, I think. Yeah. The last thing he says about it, to really put it in a nutshell, it's hardly breaking news to say the entertainment industry's values and priorities are antithetical to the rest of America. Just look at the dismal performance of HBO's Girls, a series celebrated and rewarded within the industry but virtually ignored outside of New York and LA. Question is, will this practice change after the success of American Sniper? Probably not, unfortunately. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Roger Ailes over at Fox News. Megyn Kelly, she is becoming the star du jour. In case you were wondering, why is this? I know I have a lot of conservatives that complain about her and say she's a squish or she's a leftist or all sorts of crazy stuff. Regardless of what you think of her politics or anything else, one thing she's gotten really good at, and the New York Times Magazine went and pointed it out, is she creates the Megyn Kelly moment. What is that? That is, and this was also on the 21st. She hits people with a question that totally blindsides them. She hasn't, and honestly, they usually don't know what it is before it's coming, and even if they do, she's probably not going to be happy with whatever flippant answer they come up with, and she's going to keep on digging until she gets that moment. So, what is that all about? It's about breaking the general conservative BS and pushing it farther. Asking them something that is not necessarily politically correct. Calling them on something that they've done. What have you. But regardless, it definitely isn't the norm for Fox News. So why the popularity? And why does Roger Ailes love this? Because it's helping him to reach beyond the base. He needs to reach beyond the base. And this is so that, Fox News continues on. I mean, it's enjoying a great deal of success over CNN, MSNBC, and in a lot of cases is only beat by ESPN, which, by the way, is depressing to me, but hey, I'm not going to get into my whole why sports are so damn popular. So what does this mean for media? You have the left in Hollywood refusing to recognize anyone to the right at all, even at the center. And you have the right in Fox News trying to garner support of individuals who may or may not be carrying the most conservative values out there. It's a reality check, folks. This is what I've been saying about the Republican Party, by the way. They're having a little bit bigger problem with it than Fox News. Because, you see, everybody complains about the party establishment, and I do too. I understand the whole run a moderate candidate, and the concept is to try to get somebody that somebody beyond the radical right would vote for. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. The big problem with the establishment is that they keep on digging from the same barrel. We've forgotten, because we've gotten so divisive, that the politics of America, the governing of America, works through compromise. We're doing it right when both sides leave the table pissed off. That's the bottom line. Nobody should be getting everything they want, because the implication is that up to 50% or more of the population is not being represented. You can't please all of the people all of the time. The best we can hope for is to please all of the people at least a little. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, it's about that time. Coming up at 2 o'clock, The Right Mics. And this is Wednesday, big night. 9 o'clock, Liberty Unfiltered. 10 o'clock, Modern Comments. 11 o'clock, I'll be back here and over on FTR. The Right War with Taylor. I don't think that we have a guest tonight, so maybe I'll have to, torture him all evening. Other than that, I'll be back here tomorrow at noon, and we get to go right back through the whole cycle again. So, have a good one. I'm out of here.